Ever heard of a spy so good he could tell you the exact date of a world-changing invasion, yet his own leader wouldn't listen? This is the story of Richard Sorge, arguably the greatest spy of the 20th century. He was a German journalist, a decorated war hero, and a charismatic Nazi party member. But behind this perfect facade was a man living a life of unimaginable deception, a dedicated communist working for the Soviet Union, deep inside the enemy's camp. His mission? To become the eyes and ears of Moscow, in the heart of the Axis powers, right from the German embassy in Tokyo. This isn't just a spy story. It's the tale of how one man's intelligence altered the course of World War II. So, who was Richard Sorge? To understand the master spy, you have to understand the man. Born in 1895 to a German father and a Russian mother, his early life was fairly conventional. When World War I broke out, he was a patriotic young German, eager to serve his country. He enlisted in the army and fought on the Western Front. But the horrors he witnessed in the trenches changed him forever. He was severely wounded 3 times, once by shrapnel that left him with a permanent limp and lifelong pain. Lying in military hospitals, disillusioned and broken, he began reading the works of Karl Marx. The war had shattered his faith in nationalism and capitalism. Communism, with its promise of a new world order, offered an answer. After the war, Sorge earned a doctorate in political science and threw himself into communist politics. His sharp intellect, charisma, and unwavering belief in the cause did not go unnoticed. By the late 1920s, he was recruited by the 4th Department of the Red Army's General Staff, better known as the GRU, Soviet Military Intelligence. The GRU saw in Sorge the perfect raw material for an illegal agent, someone who could operate abroad for years under a deep cover identity, with no visible ties to the Soviet Union. His training was rigorous. He learned tradecraft, codes, microphotography, surveillance, and the art of cultivating sources. His first major assignment took him to Shanghai in the 1930s. China was a chaotic hornet's nest of nationalists, communists, and foreign powers. It was the perfect training ground. Under the guise of a German journalist, he built a network, reported on Chiang Kai-shek's military strength, and proved his mettle as a field agent. It was here he perfected his cover, his charm, and his ruthless efficiency. But his greatest mission was yet to come. In 1933, the same year Hitler came to power, Sorge was given a truly audacious assignment. Go to Japan, an ally of Nazi Germany, and establish a spy ring. His cover was brilliant in its simplicity and its sheer nerve. He would pose as a passionately pro-Nazi journalist for a prominent German newspaper. His academic background, war record, and genuine charm allowed him to move effortlessly in high society. He joined the Nazi Party and socialized with German diplomats and military attaches, all while secretly despising everything they stood for. He was the fox not just in the henhouse, but acting as the farmer. Once in Tokyo, Sorge began to assemble his team, codenamed the Ramsey Ring. This wasn't some clumsy group of saboteurs. It was a sophisticated network of influential people. His most important recruit was Hatsumi Ozaki, a well-respected Japanese journalist and an advisor to the Japanese Prime Minister. Ozaki was also an idealist who believed that Japanese militarism was leading his country to ruin and saw communism as a better path. Through Ozaki, Sorge gained unparalleled access to the highest levels of the Japanese government, learning about policy decisions, military plans, and secret cabinet meetings. The information flowed from the top of the Japanese government through Ozaki to Sorge, who then distilled it and sent it via coded radio messages to his handlers in Moscow. His other key agents included another radio operator and a German military advisor who fed him technical details about the German army. He also cultivated a deep friendship with the German ambassador, Eugene O.T.T. Sorge became O.T.'s trusted confidant, even helping to write his official reports back to Berlin. He was so deeply embedded that he was essentially running intelligence for both the Nazis and the Soviets from the same desk. Now we come to the moments that cemented Sorge's legend. By the spring of 1941, through his sources in the German embassy and his own analysis, Sorge became convinced that Hitler was about to betray his non-aggression pact with Stalin and invade the Soviet Union. He gathered specifics, the number of divisions, the military strategy, and most critically, the date. He sent multiple, urgent warnings to Moscow. His most famous message, sent in mid-May, stated that the attack, codenamed Operation Barbarossa, would begin around June 20th. The actual date was June 22nd. But Stalin, paranoid and distrustful, dismissed the intelligence. He believed it was a British provocation designed to drag him into the war. He called Sorge a little shit who's set himself up with some small factories and brothels in Japan. The warning was ignored, and the Soviet Union suffered catastrophic losses in the initial weeks of the invasion. But Sorge's most decisive contribution was yet to come. As German armies drove toward Moscow, in the brutal autumn of 1941, Stalin faced a nightmare scenario, a two-front war. Would Japan, Germany's ally, attack the Soviet Union from the east, striking at Siberia? The Soviet Far East was defended by battle-hardened Siberian divisions, but if Stalin moved them to defend Moscow, he would leave the eastern border vulnerable. It was a monumental gamble. The fate of the Soviet Union hung in the balance. Stalin needed to know Japan's intentions, and he turned to the one man who could find out, Richard Sorge. Sorge and Ozaki worked frantically. Through Ozaki's high-level contacts, they learned the crucial decision made by the Japanese leadership. Japan's priority was to expand southward, to seize the oil-rich territories of Southeast Asia, which meant they needed to prepare for war with the United States and Great Britain. They would not attack the Soviet Union. On October 14, 1941, Sorge sent his most important dispatch. The Japanese will not move against the USSR. This time, Stalin listened. Armed with Sorge's intelligence, he made one of the most critical decisions of the war. He ordered the transfer of the elite Siberian divisions from the Far East all the way to the Western Front. These fresh, well-equipped, and winter-acclimated troops arrived just in time to lead the counteroffensive that halted the Nazi advance at the very gates of Moscow in December 1941. This victory was the first major defeat for the German army, and a crucial turning point in the war. It's no exaggeration to say that Richard Sorge's intelligence saved Moscow, but the net was closing in. Sorge's spy ring had been operating for nearly a decade, and small mistakes were starting to add up. The Japanese counterintelligence, the dreaded Kempeitai, were a formidable force. They slowly and methodically began to unravel the network. A minor member of the ring was arrested, and under torture gave up another name. The dominoes began to fall. On October 18, 1941, just 4 days after sending his most vital message, Richard Sorge was arrested. Ozaki was arrested a few days earlier. The Japanese were stunned to discover that the respected Nazi journalist and confidant to the German ambassador was a Soviet master spy. For years, Sorge and his agents were interrogated and tortured. Sorge, ever the professional, admitted his role but refused to betray the wider GRU network. He hoped for a prisoner exchange, but the Soviet Union, sticking to the cold logic of espionage, publicly disavowed him. To admit he was their spy would be a diplomatic disaster with Japan, a country they were not at war with. Richard Sorge was left to his fate. On November 7, 1944, the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, he was executed by hanging. His last words, spoken in Japanese, were reportedly, "The Red Army, the International, the Soviet Union." For 20 years, Richard Sorge was a ghost, unacknowledged by the country he had served so faithfully. But in 1964, the truth finally came out. With the political climate changing under Khrushchev, Sorge was posthumously declared a hero of the Soviet Union, the nation's highest honor. Streets were named after him, and stamps were issued with his portrait. He became a national hero, the ultimate spy who sacrificed everything for the cause. His legacy is complex. Was he a traitor to his homeland, Germany? Or a hero who fought against fascism in the most effective way he could? He was a man of contradictions, a hard-drinking playboy who was also a disciplined operative, a charismatic Nazi who was a die-hard communist. What is undeniable is his impact. Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, called him the most formidable spy in history. Richard Sorge was a real-life spy whose actions were more dramatic and consequential than any fictional character. He was the man who knew too much, who gave everything for a belief, and whose intelligence changed the world. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories from history.